Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Friday Focus on Your Future. And we are so excited to welcome back Miss Jenny Johnston, who will be sharing with us on soft skills. Before Miss Jenny begins, I want to remind you to make sure that your first name and last name are on your screen. That's how we take attendance. Um, and I hope you will just sit back and enjoy Miss Jenny's presentation today on empathy. Jenny, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can take it over.
Okay, thank you. This much little smaller group today. Thank you for joining us. I originally was going to do empathy and situational awareness, but empathy takes up quite a bit of time, so I'm just focusing on empathy instead. Maybe next year we'll cover situational awareness. Um, you might want to get a piece of paper just to take a little note. We're going to do a little quiz at the beginning. It's not a scary quiz. It's just on how empathetic you are. Um, okay. Oh, you know what? I have to share my sound. So let me do this again. Am I still sharing my screen?
No, you're not.
Okay. Okay. Let me share it again and share my sound. Okay. There we go. To share my audio, install Zoom audio advice and restart my computer. Okay, that's
Uh-oh.
not great. Um, Mary, should I share my slides with you?
Um,
Or you can share the
yes,
sound?
that would be great if you want to share the
Okay,
slides with me and then I will put them up.
yes.
Okay.
Let me do that real quick. Yeah, that I just did Zoom with audio just a couple days ago, so something must have changed.
Hmm.
My permissions have been taken away. Okay, so then I'll just have to walk you through what to do, Mary, but
That's
I know
fine.
you can handle it.
Let me get it over on my screen here.
Off towards the right.
Inbox.
Off towards the right somewhere would be settings, I think. Okay. So we're going to start with a little quiz on empathy, and you're going to see how empathetic you are in this moment today. So, and Mary, my slides always have like animation. So just click once. And this is the definition of empathy. So, empathy is the ability to share someone else's feelings or experiences by imagining what it would be like to be in that person's situation. And then click again. This isn't to be confused with sympathy, which is very different. So, click. Sympathy is more feelings of pity, sorrow, for somebody else's misfortune. And I'll have a cute video that kind of shows the difference between empathy and sympathy. Um, and then if you click again, I think it just says to get a piece of paper and then go to the next slide. I want you guys to just take a few minutes. Hopefully you can read through this okay. There's 15 questions. You're going to rate yourself as regularly doing this, occasionally doing this, or never doing this. And then you're going to get a total. So I just want everybody to be quiet for the next few minutes and then answer these questions, rating yourself not how you wish you were or how you want to be, but how you actually are. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to do that, and then I'll check back in with you. And you really do want to go with your gut reaction on this. So it shouldn't take you too long to just give yourself the points for each question. Oh, it says you're connecting to audio. Oh. After you have your 15 answers, add that up and give yourself your total. I'm going to give you guys a worksheet at the end that you can put your total at, because I want you to work on improving your score over the next month. So just keep that score nearby. And it's really hard for me to know if anybody needs more time. So raise your hand if you really don't want me to go forward, and I'll give you more time. Oh, you got it. Okay, there's a few of you. Yeah, take your time.
One or two people just entered the waiting room and then joined us. So in case you're wondering what we're doing, we're reading these statements here and giving yourself a score, 2, 1, or 0 on each of these statements. And Miss Jenny said, go with your gut.
Yep. We often want to put what we wish we would do, not what we actually do. So your gut's a little more honest. This also is going to be on the slides that I'm giving you guys to make a copy of, because this is going to be a good reference for what you want to work on. So if you don't have time to finish, then you can finish this at the end, because I probably need to go forward because I have an interview at 2. So I do have to leave at by 1:55. So if you didn't get to finish, that's okay. You can finish up when you get the slides later. This is how you can score your assessment. So when you add up those 15 points, if you had 1 to 10 points, that reflects a low level of social awareness. Recognizing and responding to others' emotions is a challenge. You can focus on enhancing social awareness for having better social relationships. And if you scored a 1 to 10, that's okay, because we can only get better at things that we know we need to work on. And so if we don't pay attention to things we want to change and work on, we're never going to make them better. So it's okay, no matter where you are in this range. 11 to 20, you have a moderate level of social awareness, and there's still room for you to improve and understand and how to respond to other people's emotions. There are really, it's unfortunately lacking people out there with empathy and not sympathy. If you can work on this skill, you're going to have a skill that other people want, because people want to be seen and heard and understood. And if you're that rare person out there with that 21 to 30 points, you're going to get farther in life because people want you around. And if you're far away from that 21 to 30, you just have to work on it. This is such an important skill in relationships, in jobs, in anything you think about in your future. You want to be able to have empathy. Okay, so next slide. So what is empathy? I'm going to just go over some 4 topics that empathy is, And then we're going to watch some of my favorite videos that help to construct it in like a really good way. But please, at any time, if you want, have questions, just let me know. The first thing is perspective taking. And Mary, this will have a topic and then a subtopic on each one. So perspective taking, that's honoring other people's perspective as truth to them. This is hard because often we have our own opinions and we can't believe that someone else doesn't think the same as us. But everyone's going to think different than us. There's no one else out there like us. We are unique, and that's what makes us as a human race so amazing. But it also is what makes challenges if you try to fit everyone into your box, what you want them to believe and what you want them to think. If you are religious and your feelings are very strong and you can't believe someone else doesn't hold those feelings, you're both going to be stuck in a situation that's hard instead of stepping back and realizing everyone has their own truth and their truth is 100% true to them. So that's the first most important one. Number 2 is no judgment, which is incredibly difficult because you really value yourself and your opinion, and you really want other people to as well. But when you have empathy, you have to step back and realize your opinion has no place in someone else's life. Your opinion is important for your life, just as their opinion for themselves is important for their life. So to have empathy, you have to be able to step away from your judgment and accept them for who they are. And then number 3 is recognizing emotions. So recognizing emotions is being able to understand through verbal and non-verbal cues. And if you were with me when I did communication, we talked about verbal and nonverbal skills. You can read a lot about somebody with their verbal and nonverbal. And so recognizing those emotions where maybe their words are not matching how their body is. If you're empathetic, you can understand that there's something behind what they're saying. They're not telling you the whole truth, and maybe they're scared or maybe they're afraid. And if you can have empathy, you might be able to see that. And then 4 is communicating emotions, which is the ability to help other people be seen. And by that, I mean, you're not listening to someone to just say the next thing you want to say. You're listening to someone to hear them, and you can respond back to them. What I heard you say is, when I do this, it makes you sad. Or what I hear you say is that you get angry when I don't put my dishes in the dishwasher, or whatever. You're expressing back to them what those emotions are. And I just heard the most fantastic podcast on empathy that talked about it was on a communication actually, and it was a Muslim woman who interviewed neo-Nazis to find their perspective and understand how they came to be the way that they came to their beliefs. And they listened to her on how she came to have her beliefs. And the idea that they were able to listen to each other, and quite a few of them actually left the neo-Nazi group after that because they saw her as a human and not as, this image of something that they despised. That's what happens when you can have empathy. You can befriend people you 100% disagree with. It is a possibility. Okay, so next slide is our first video. This is going to show the difference between empathy and sympathy. So if you click on the Brené Brown, yep. And you might have to skip, because I had it set up on mine where I had skipped ads, but I think this one doesn't have an ad. But if you just put it full screen and then play it, and then we'll watch it.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Okay. So I like that video because it clearly shows the difference between, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you, that's too bad, and being there with someone in a difficult situation. We don't have to have the right things to say, because how she ends that is my favorite. The responses don't matter. It's that connection between someone, and that connection doesn't have to have words. It just has to be presence, that you're there to support somebody in the time that they need you. So on the next slide are some examples of some meaningful things that we can say. And these won't come naturally. These only will come when you practice saying these kinds of things in a difficult situation. So some examples: I don't even know what to say right now, but I'm so glad you told me. This is a really good response if someone tells you that, like, their pet died or their grandparent died or something really, really hard, because nothing you say is going to help. It's not going to make the situation any better. But acknowledging, I'm glad you told me that, even though it's hard, is at least letting that person feel cared about. The next one: this must be very hard for you. I'm here if you need someone to listen. A lot of times when someone's going through something difficult, they just want to be heard. They don't need anything else. They just want to be able to get it off their chest. The next one: thank you for trusting me with this. Sometimes people have things to share that are really, really hard, and you don't have to give them advice. You don't have to do anything with it except thanking them that they trust you enough to share that with them. That can be really meaningful to someone who's going through a hard time. And then the last one: you've been so courageous throughout this difficult time. You're a strong and resilient person. You're acknowledging facts. What are the facts? What you're going through is hard. That's a fact. But you're also strong and resilient because you're still here and you're still trying and you're still doing things. That's a fact. You're just telling this person two things that are true about their situation without trying to fix it, without trying to come up with solutions, without trying to talk about your own problems. You're staying focused on them and what they might need, and that, you're proud of them for what they're doing.
Miss Jenny, if I can interrupt for a second, we have a question in the chat that says, what do I do if they don't want my help?
Yeah, a lot of people will often, if you ask if they want help, they will say no. My suggestion is to think of something they might appreciate and just do it, so that you're acknowledging something. So like, if somebody's pet passed away, you can buy a cute little card at Trader Joe's for $1 and mail them a card that says, "I'm so sorry you lost your pet." If they're a good friend and they're going through a hard time, you could buy them a $5 Starbucks card, or you could go to the store and buy their favorite candy bar and just drop it on their porch. Most people are not going to ask for help, which is unfortunate, but you can be that person that just does something without having to be asked. And I'd say that's the best advice. It's unfortunate people don't ask for help when they need it, but we can take steps to help people in ways that are little but meaningful and don't take a lot of time or effort on our part. Yeah, please, if you guys have questions, that's great. I should probably do a presentation on how to ask for help, because most people won't ask for help, and we do not need to do life alone. But I think in these little steps where you're learning to do things for others without being asked, things like that can be really helpful in supporting important people in our lives. I'm so sorry that I'm coughing. I think the next one is another video. This is my all-time favorite movie of my whole life, except for Princess Bride. Princess Bride is my favorite movie, and then Inside Out is my next favorite movie. And I'm gonna just cry watching this clip, so I should probably just turn my camera off. But this is the best clip for empathy that you'll ever find once we get through the ads.
No, you can't take my rocket to the top! Riley and I are going to the moon! Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay.
I'm not
We
doing
can
it, Marius.
fix this.
She's trying to, it's
Sit
not
at the
pulling.
headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
Okay. So I think we were able to see the whole thing. The video was a little bit maybe uneven or something, but you could see how Joy just wanted everything to go away. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. Let's go do something happy. Whereas Sadness just wants to sit with her friend and let him be sad. And that's what empathy is. Empathy is being sad with somebody so that they're not alone. So they know they're not alone. They have somebody there. We all need a friend like sadness. Joy's really fun to be around, but joy's not great when you're going through a hard time. Sometimes you just need to be sad. So the next slide is what empathy is not. So this is kind of what Joy was doing. So the first thing is deflecting. And I can guarantee all of us have done all of these things because difficult situations are uncomfortable. They make us uncomfortable. The person who's having the difficult situation is uncomfortable, and doing hard things feels uncomfortable in our body. So we do things we shouldn't do because they feel better. So what you want to learn is you want to learn to be okay with the uncomfortable feelings because the uncomfortable feelings match the situation. They match what you're going through or what your friend's going through, and they have more meaning. So deflecting, that's the, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Do you want a sandwich from the first video? Telling someone, oh man, yeah, that really sucks. What'd you think of the game last night? There's nothing worse than someone sharing something really hard with you and then having you completely change the subject, because not only does that person not feel seen, now they might be embarrassed. They might not want to talk about whatever they were going to talk about. They might feel uncomfortable bringing it up with anyone else, because what if someone else deflects them as well? So that's why we don't want to deflect an uncomfortable situation. Number 2 is diminishing. So at least you didn't fail the test. Like, you got a 57%, you didn't fail it, but that doesn't take the pain of failing the test away. Diminishing takes problems and it makes people feel like, just get over it. What's the big deal? But it's a big deal to them. So we don't want to diminish things either. Number 3 is dismissing. It's kind of what I was just giving an example of. So I don't get why this is such a big deal. I think you should just get over it. So you take the problem that they have and you dismiss it as it's as if it's nothing important. Number 4, I would say, is what most people are guilty of: overtaking. Right? Your friend has something hard happen to them. You had something way harder happen to you, right? Let me just tell you my story about the hard situation I had. Then we completely take over the situation. Yeah, that might be bad, but my situation is worse. This is a good way to build walls between friends, because that friend is going to know anytime they come to you, you're just going to bring everything back to yourself. So you want to always try to keep things focused on the person who's talking and what the issue is that they're having. And number 5 can be another one that we could be guilty of, and that's giving advice. When someone's going through a hard time, a lot of us just want to solve it. What can we do to make this better? I just want to make this situation go away. So if I give them advice, maybe the situation will go away. But advice has one time that it's okay. And that's when they ask you, I don't know what to do in this situation. What would you do? Do you have advice for me on what I could do in this situation? When someone does not ask for advice, you want to refrain from giving it, because I said in the beginning, what do most people want? They want to be seen and they want to be heard. And when you see them and you hear them, they might come up with their own solution on their own. They just need a sounding board of someone else to talk to. Okay, we're doing really good on time. Okay, so the next one, I want you, on your scrap piece of paper, if you still have that right there, I want you to just write down your perspective and your friend's perspective on this situation. So your friend models a snug dress, seeking your opinion. You gently express that the fit isn't flattering and suggest finding something more comfortable. She reacts angrily and exits abruptly. What is your perspective in that situation? And what is your friend's perspective in that situation? And this is your first practice of putting yourself in someone else's shoes to try to imagine how they would feel. So I want you to put, a couple brief sentences under each of those things. So just take like a minute or two.
Someone asked me to go back a slide, so I'm just going to go back one and then I'll come back to this one, okay?
Okay. And you guys that are writing, you're just putting your perspective and then your friend's perspective in that situation. And Mary, I don't know, can kids, because with the recording, can kids share anything or is that complicated with the recording? Did they prefer like kids not to talk or?
We would prefer students did not talk during the presentation. I will stop recording at the end, and then if they have questions, they can ask at the end after the recording stop, just to protect their privacy and confidentiality.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I wanted to have people, if they wanted to share their perspective and their friend's perspective on this. If you want to share something, you can type a few sentences in the chat. I would love to see if you guys have some things to share on this. There's one more, so maybe let's go forward one more slide. And then this is a different situation you can do the same thing on. So despite having other plans, your teacher detains you after school to complete unfinished classwork, causing frustration. Is that all it says, Mary? Is that the bottom of the slide? I think it is. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm sure we've all had this situation, right? Your parent might actually be your teacher. So maybe you could put parent instead of teacher in there. So what is your perspective in that situation? And then what's your teacher's perspective in that situation? Put yourself in the other person's shoes and try to understand how they're feeling or why they might feel that way. So take a few more minutes on this one as well.
Jenny, on the previous scenario, I did have a student who said, for her perspective, she would feel bad for embarrassing her friend.
Mm-hmm.
That was her perspective on it. I haven't gotten any other responses in the chat.
Yeah, that's a common response. That's kind of why we tell little white lies sometimes when we're confronted with a situation like that. Or you find the one thing you can compliment and you compliment the one thing. Okay, take about 1 more minute and finish that up. And then Mary, I think I can share because the slides or the next thing is not going to let you do it because it's like I haven't shared the permissions and I don't have any more sound. So, okay. So yeah, just finish up what you're working on. And then we can always have you guys share anything at the end if you want once we stop recording.
I have a couple comments here that just said, let's see. I'd want to, for the person with the dress, I'd want to go find her and explain why. The one with the teachers, she probably wants me to learn to finish things before I get caught up with other things and forget to get things done. But the teacher's perspective, I want him or her to learn to be successful in life and finish things before everything else and clear things up.
Yeah.
Another one said, I would have felt that she only cared about how others are attracted to her in an unmodest way, and she asked for my opinion and acted arrogantly.
Yeah, I can totally see that, especially because again, everyone has different opinions and maybe you dress more modestly and can't understand why someone would dress more provocatively. So yeah, it's totally true. It's good for us to understand what our perspective is so we can honor our perspective while we also take other people's into consideration. Okay. So if you're still working on that, you can finish it up in a little bit. You still have your piece of paper and you know what you're working on. So the reason I wanted to do these two activities is because of practice. And I think in some other presentations that I've done about emotional regulation and learning about self-awareness, we can't do anything that we don't practice. The idea that we would get better at something without trying it over and over and over again is misleading. The only way we get better at things is by doing them over and over and over. So we need to practice. Empathy does not come naturally. Empathy is actually a skill. No one is born with empathy. We create our empathy through practice. And if up until this point we haven't practiced empathy, it's going to be hard. And so you have to practice it. So how do we get better at something? We practice it. We practice it over and over. Are you going to mess up? Absolutely. That's good. Messing up teaches us stuff. When we goof something up, we learn from that experience. Wow, that didn't go well. What can I do better next time? That didn't go as smooth as I want. What could I try next time that'll be better? Every time something doesn't go the way we want, you have to shift that perspective from failing to learning. That was a good lesson. I'm glad that happened because I can learn from it. So you just want to keep trying. So you have a friend who comes to you with a really difficult situation. You catch yourself in the middle of taking over their story. You realize it. You're like, oh no, she was talking about breaking up with her boyfriend and now I'm talking about mine. Stop yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I dove into my own story. Go back to you. Can you keep telling me what was happening for you? I'm so sorry I did that. It's okay to stop and pivot no matter where we are in a situation. That friend is going to appreciate it no matter what. So this is what I want you to, if you want, you can make a copy of. Let me see if this works. So I'm going to put this in the chat. Oh, I can't share it. So Mary, I can share it with you. Can you share it with people or no?
Yes, I can. Let me copy it and
Okay.
I will share it to everybody.
Then what it should do is it should take you to a screen that looks like this. It's going to ask you if you want to make a copy of this and you can say yes. or no, you don't have to. And it'll make you a copy of these practice sheets. So the first page is what we started with. And that's where you can fill in your score. So if you had, say, a 14, you're going to put a 14 in there. And then you're going to look and see on areas you could improve. And then practice, practice, practice. And after a month, take this quiz again and see what you've changed and what you've improved on. What I really like about this, let me see if I can zoom in. Okay. What I really like about this is that these examples are so specific and give you really good things to focus on. So I can emphasize and understand situations from different viewpoints. I can engage with people from various backgrounds. I'm mindful of how my communication influences others' emotions and behaviors. All of these give you really specific things to work on. I think before I act and speak, that's not something we're good at as teenagers, right? We don't even have a closed frontal lobe. So that's like definitely something really hard to do. But it's something, if you're aware of, you could start paying attention to. Everything else in here is kind of what we just did. There's situations where you can type in, what would you show? What would you say to show empathy? What are the other person's thoughts and feelings? This one is another one, just what's happening. And then what does that mean that it's happening? What should you do in that situation? This is another one of like looking at how we impact other people and what we could do better to impact other people. I really like this one. This one's building a better relationship. So you can pick a person that you want to improve your relationship with, and then you can brainstorm. What are the parts of the relationship that really need some work and you want to help on? And what would foster those interactions that you want to change? And then here's another one that you can do again, specifically looking at, we all have those one or two people in our life that we have a good relationship, but it's kind of struggling and we could put some effort in to make it better. And then this is the last one that is about social awareness. And so you can look and see of these topics up at the top what you might want to improve on. So those are all things that that you guys, that copy that just got made for you, that's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can share it with me. I don't mind at all. I love hearing from people if you have questions or need help. This is such an important topic, and it really does play a significant role in our lives, how much we can have empathy for others. And that's it. So I have 5 minutes, so I have to go to my interview. So if Mary, you can take over.
Well, I'm going to start by thanking you, Jenny. I know you're not feeling well. I appreciate you being here, even though you're not feeling well. Thank you for making the commitment to be here. And oh my gosh, I learned so much myself. So, and I think this is just such important information. So those of you who are on the Zoom right now, just hold tight for a minute. I'm going to end the recording and then we can open up and ask any questions that you have. Okay, so once again, Jenny, thank you. And let's stop recording.